On, we feel delighted to inform this August gathering that Mr. Sam Pitroda, also known as the father of Indian communication revolution, has specially recorded a video for all the attendees of Communique'14. Mr. Sam Pitroda is a personality who needs no introduction. Therefore, I would simply request the Web and Tech team to please play the video for this wonderful audience.
Dear students and faculty at the Symbiosis Institute of Telecom Management. Greetings from Chicago. It is indeed a special privilege for me to be with you to talk about telecom developments in India and on the global scene. I'm delighted that you are organizing this conference. I wish I could be there in person. However, I have a complicated travel schedule. I'm leaving tomorrow for Mexico, then for New York, then for Singapore. So this is a great substitute. I want to thank organizers for giving me this opportunity. And I'd like to really talk more about a little bit of a history of telecom in India with clear focus on where are we today and where are we headed. In the process, I'll be able to comment a little bit on the global scenario. And I hope in about next 20 minutes, I'll be able to give you a little feel as to what has been happening in telecom from my perspective. Many of you young may not realize that telecom in India had been a luxury for a long, long time. When I entered telecom scene in 1981, India had just about 2 million telephones for 750 million people. I remember it used to take 10 years to get a telephone connection. Costs were high. Most of the phones were in urban areas, only with government, institutions, and rich. And telecom was seen more as a luxury. In those days, there used to be a great deal of debate on GDP versus telephone density. The logic was that all the rich countries have lots of telephones, and all the countries with lots of telephones are rich. So it was clear that telecom could be an instrument of development, especially in a country like India. With the diversity we have, it is important to provide connectivity. So when Rajiv Gandhi was Prime Minister, he provided political will to focus on telecom as an instrument of nation building. Telecom is not about just telephones. It's about software, manufacturing, services, infrastructure, institutions, local production, human capacity. So in those days, in early 80s, we set up a Center for Development of Telematics with the idea of building young talent in digital communication with clear focus on indigenous development, rural telecom, ancillary industry, local production, digital networks, software capacity. Government then decided to spend $36 million to build local switching equipment. We essentially planted seeds then. In a short span of 25 years, today India has about 1 billion telephones. We are a nation of a connected billion. And a lot of the credit goes to entrepreneurs, revolution in mobile technology and mobile wireless telephone services, regulatory authority, government policies, structural changes in the telecom industry, geared more toward privatization, liberalization, and all of a sudden, telecom scene change a great deal in India. It has also given us very large software industry, roughly $100 to $150 billion worth of software export every year, year after year. Global name recognition, Indian large multinationals, and in the process through cellular phones, mobile towers all over the country. Almost every part of India is pretty well connected. Telephone density in urban areas is more than 100% in some cases. Telephone density in rural areas improved substantially. And telecom has been seen as a great success story in the last couple of decades. The key is to really build on what we have accomplished in terms of connectivity to really use telecom and IT and ICT to really improve productivity, efficiency, reduce cost in many other sectors. To be globally competitive, we need to really build telecom infrastructure of tomorrow. Today's telecom, on one hand, has a great deal of success. On the other hand, there were issues, whether it has to do with 2G scam that people talk about, or lack of local production, or lack of local R&D. These are some of the issues we need to really address going forward. So, from my perspective, first phase of the telecom revolution is over. We have really now set up infrastructure to connect everybody for a normal voice call. The second phase of the telecom revolution is beginning now with clear understanding of broadband for everybody. We have a huge amount of fiber optics infrastructure built as part of the mobile operators' expansion plans. And as you know, we have some great mobile operators in the country, as good as anywhere else in the world. And a lot of credit goes to these mobile operators as to what they have been able to accomplish in the last decade. So I believe we have just about 1 million kilometers of optical fiber. How do we use this optical fiber first to really connect our government and institutions, and then take it to rural areas and finally build broadband capacity is the challenge. So the last few years, I had an opportunity to focus on building national knowledge network. It is a network that connects 1100 nodes with 40 gigabit bandwidth to connect all our universities, R&D labs, hopefully libraries and all. This network is already operational. So we know how to build gigabit networks and manage and maintain effectively on our own. Now we are trying to build a network to connect local panchayats. There are 250,000 panchayats to be connected with optical fiber. To these two major networks, which will ultimately act as backbone for the broadband connectivity nationwide, we are adding platforms for things like UID. As you know, we have already provided UID to about 700 million people, which has been the biggest success stories again in the last 5 years. Simultaneously, we need to provide now ability to connect UID to bank accounts, telephone numbers, and many other applications. It will be more used as know your customer instrument. To UID, when we add GIS, we create very important, robust platform to provide variety of applications. We have large number of efforts going on in the government on e-governance for almost a couple of decades. And now we are trying to really consolidate many of these so that we can benefit from cloud computing, open source software, low-cost terminals, large data centers. Idea here is to really use computerization to improve tax collection, driver's license, passport, judiciary, police, prisons. Take, for example, judiciary. We have over 32 million court cases pending today. The challenge is to really computerize a lot of this so we could reduce time to justice from maybe 10 years to 3 years. A lot of it is possible. However, it requires innovative, creative ways of integrating police, prison, hospitals, courts, and all of that. Similarly, there are many other programs related to food security, employment guarantee schemes, which require a great deal of computerization and hence broadband facilities. So along with this network of connectivity, application and platform, we need to really learn to use broadband to benefit large sectors like education, health, agriculture, commerce, financial services, manufacturing, governments, and this requires significant change in mindset. We also need to really create local applications in local language so people feel comfortable in using broadband facilities. World over, there is great emphasis on broadband now. There is a commission at the UN on broadband. This commission meets regularly. We have a next meeting coming up this month in New York, where commission is constantly emphasizing accessibility, affordability, expansion, excellence, and equity. Every country is beginning to focus on broadband as the next big revolution to transform governance, to transform infrastructure. This is really the infrastructure of the infrastructure for the 21st century. We need gigabits of bandwidth all over because all of a sudden there is substantial change in the use of video for training, videos floating around all over in education, health services. So how do you provide thick pipe all the way up to last mile? Not just over mobile 3G, 4G, but also over optical fiber, so we can begin to aggregate a lot of this data, is the challenge today. In India, number of broadband subscribers have increased substantially, thanks to 3G and 4Gs, hopefully. But the real challenge lies in creating applications in many of the areas that I mentioned earlier. Globally, we have seen that broadband is becoming very critical to transforming education, health services. I'm sure many of you have read about recent announcement by Apple related to iPhone Model 6, Apple Watch, Apple Pay, All of these services really relate to access to broadband. These are the tools to improve efficiency and productivity in day-to-day life tomorrow. And if we don't focus on this, it will be difficult to be globally competitive, because every aspect of education, health, business, governance would require this kind of facilities to really deliver public services to people. I've been saying in my public talks that everything we do today is essentially obsolete, because if we had internet earlier, we would do things very differently. Now that we have internet, and now that we see potential of broadband, the key question for all of us is, how do we begin to transform governance, delivery of public services, banking systems, payment? And at the heart of all of this is education. Education today does not really benefit a great deal from broadband. There is large amount of information available on internet, on all kinds of material in the form of open courseware. The question is, how do you access it? How do you really curate material? Because if you go search today, you find large amount of information. And how do you begin to get knowledge out of this information? Would require different search engines, maybe local search engines, maybe search engines in Indian languages to search Indian literature. There is a great deal of connectivity between broadband and art, music, culture. We have so much of rich cultural heritage. All of it needs to be documented, digitized. So in a sense, the telecom revolution is all about the opportunities in the next 10 years through broadband. Every field you look at, you find that there is so much that needs to be done to really prepare material for digital environment, to capitalize on social networks, transform training material, government services, legal systems. And I believe that is the next big revolution. So as the first phase of the telecom revolution has ended, second phase of the revolution is about to pick up. And I hope students at the institute here in telecom management discuss this at length as to what opportunities are available. There will always be challenges related to regulatory framework, liberalization, role of private industry, role of government. But at the end of the day, what really matters is local talent, ultimately local applications, and a change in mindset to transform our ways of doing things from how we do it today to how we will do it in tomorrow. I hope this gives you enough food for thought, discussions, discourse. I once again want to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity, and I want to wish you lots of luck at this conference. Thank you.